The pie chart shows information about the percentage of hotel revenues by class. To begin with, we can see that there are 80 upper upscale hotels, 23 luxury hotels, and 11 other hotels. According to the graph, by far the highest revenue has been upper upscale hotel with a number of 75%. Last but not the least, this is followed by luxury hotel with a number of 22%. In conclusion, other hotels presented less revenue with a number of only 3%. The pie chart gives information about the world water distribution. To begin with, we can see that there are categories in comparison with the saltwater, freshwater, ice, groundwater, and river and lakes. According to the graph, the largest proportion goes to saltwater at 98%, while the smallest proportion goes to river and lakes. Last but not least, for the rest of the categories, the number ranging from 12% to 87% of total freshwater. In conclusion, this is a very useful graph, and it helps to understand that the world is lack of freshwater. The pie chart gives information about the income of various economic sectors in 2003. To begin with, we can see that there are categories in comparison, which are fishing, agriculture, tourism industry, petroleum, and workers' remittances. According to the graph, the largest proportion goes to tourism at 26%, while the smallest proportion goes to agriculture at 2%. Last but not least, for the rest of the categories, the numbers are ranging from 30% to 24%. In conclusion, this is a very useful graph, and it helps us to understand the income distribution in 2003. The pie chart gives information about the Texas weather deaths from 1988 to 2005. To begin with, we can see that there are categories in comparison, which are flooding, tornadoes, lightning, and so on. According to the graph, the largest proportion goes to flooding and extreme heat at 60%, while the smallest proportion goes to high wind at 10%. Last but not least, for the rest of the categories, the numbers are ranging from 15% to 30%. In conclusion, this is a very useful graph and help us to understand the death distribution. The pie chart gives information about the usage of browsers. To begin with, we can see that there are categories in comparison, which are Firefox, Chrome, IE, and so on. According to the graph, the largest proportion goes to IE at 34.2%, while the smallest proportion goes to Android at 1.9%. Last but not least, for the rest of the categories, the numbers are ranging from 3.5% to 23.6%. In conclusion, this is a very useful graph and it helps us to understand that IE is still the most popular browser. The pie chart gives information about the kinds of wheat exported from Australia in 2005. To begin with, we can see that there are categories in comparison, which are Durham's wheat, general purpose wheat, Australian hard wheat, and organic wheat. According to the graph, the largest proportion goes to general purpose wheat at 25,109, while the smallest proportion goes to organic wheat at 6,309. Last but not least, for the rest of the categories, the numbers are ranging from 8,509 to 15,176. In conclusion, this is a very useful graph, and it helps us to understand the different kinds of wheat have different proportions. The pie chart gives information about the percentage of different size of enterprises. To begin with, we can see that there are three categories in comparison, which are small business with less than 49 employees, medium business with more than 50 but less than 149 employees, and large business with more than 150 employees. According to the graph, the largest proportion goes to medium business with a figure of 44%, while the smallest proportion goes to small business with a figure of 10%. Last but not least, for large business, the figure is 44%. In conclusion, 90% of the enterprises are medium business and large business. The pie chart gives information about the percentage of average family expense in 1996 and 2002. To begin with, we can see that there are categories in comparison, which are food and drink, housing, and other. According to the graph, in 1997, housing occupies 25% of the total family expenses, and food and drink occupied 18% of the total family expenses. Last but not least, in 2002, housing occupied 32% of the total family expenses, and food and drink occupies 22% of the total family expenses. In conclusion, both of the money spent on food and drink and housing have increased from 1997 to 2002. The pie chart gives information about the project cost breakdown. To begin with, we can see that there are categories in comparison, which are labor, license, taxes, legal, insurance, facilities, and production. According to the graph, the largest proportion goes to production with a figure of 24.46%, while the smallest proportion goes to insurance with a figure of 5.59%. Last but not least, for the rest of the categories, the numbers are ranging from 8.39% to 20.98%. In conclusion, this is a very interesting graph, and in order to get more information, we need to further research on that. The pie chart gives information about the mallet sales. To begin with, we can see that there are four categories in comparison, which are ACT, New South Wales, Queensland, and Victoria. According to the graph, the sales in ACT is 32,305, the sales in New South Wales is 28,190. Last but not least, the sales in Queensland is 33,373. In sales in Victoria is 37,583. In conclusion, the largest proportion goes to Victoria, while the smallest proportion goes to New South Wales. The pie chart gives information about what is your overall job satisfaction. To begin with, we can see that there are categories in comparison, which are somewhat satisfied, somewhat dissatisfied, indifferent, very dissatisfied, and very satisfied. According to the graph, the largest proportion goes to both somewhat satisfied and very satisfied with a figure of 47%. Last but not least, the smallest proportion goes to very dissatisfied with a figure of 2%. In conclusion, both somewhat dissatisfied and indifferent have the same proportion with a figure of 6%. The pie chart gives information about the student's average estimate of financial resources to pay for their college. To begin with, we can see that the largest proportion occupies 35%, which is in grants or scholars that do not have to be repaid. According to the graph, the smallest proportion occupies 3%, which is the money from church, community groups, or extended family. Last but not least, for the rest of the categories, the numbers are ranging from 11% to 21%. In conclusion, the rest categories are loans that will have to be repaid after graduation, money you or your immediate family have saved, money your parents or immediate family will earn during college, and so on. The pie chart gives information about how the average American family pay for college. To begin with, we can see that the largest proportion goes to parent income or saving with a figure of 33%, while the smallest proportion goes to friends or relative support with a figure of 3%. According to the graph, for the rest of the categories, the numbers are ranging from 10% to 23%. Last but not least, the rest categories include student borrowing, parent borrowing, student income or saving, and grants or scholarships. In conclusion, the most American families pay for college by saving and borrowing. The pie chart gives information about the reasons for being uninsured among uninsured non-elderly adults in 2003. To begin with, we can see that there are categories in comparison, which are lost job, insurance, no need, and so on. According to the graph, the largest proportion goes to insurance not affordable, with a figure of 32.8%, while the lowest number goes to no need, with a figure of 1.7%. Last but not least, for the rest of the categories, the numbers are ranging from 8.8% to 28.6%. In conclusion, the source of the graph KCMU analysis of 2014 National Health Interview Survey. The pie chart gives information about how Americans spend money in 2012. To begin with, we can see that there are categories in comparison, which are transportation, housing, food, insurance, healthcare, entertainment, cash contributes, apparel and services, and all other expenditures. According to the graph, the largest proportion goes to housing with a figure of 33%. Last but not least, the smallest proportion goes to apparel and services with a figure of 3%. In conclusion, for the rest of the categories, the numbers are ranging from 4% to 17%. The pie chart gives information about the causes of poor attendance in UK school in 2007. According to the graph, to begin with, we can see that the categories in comparison, which are upbringing, both parents working, lack of school discipline, peer group pressure, and bullying. According to the graph, the largest proportion goes to both parents working with a figure of 40%. And last but not least, the smallest proportion goes to upbringing with a figure of 5%. In conclusion, from the rest of the categories, the numbers are ranging from 15% to 25%. The pie chart gives information about the highest education achieved by adults over 25 in the United States. To begin with, we can see that the largest proportion goes to high school with a figure of 28%, while the smallest number goes to AA or AS with a figure of 6%. According to the graph, for the rest categories, the numbers are ranging from 8% to 21%. Last but not the least, in particular, BA or BS occupies 16%, graduate degree occupies 9%, less than 9th grade occupies 8%. In conclusion, 9th to 12th grade occupies 12%. The pie chart gives information about the distribution of subjects in 2010 and 2012. To begin with, we can see that there are categories in comparison, which are nursing, engineering, social studies, psychology, carpentry, and sports science. According to the graph, in 2010, the largest proportion goes to social studies with a figure of 27%, while the smallest proportion goes to carpentry at 8%. Last but not least, in 2012, the largest proportion goes to sports science with a figure of 25%, while the smallest proportion goes to carpentry at 5%. In conclusion, the preferences of subjects have changed a lot during this time of period. The pie chart gives information about the sales by region. To begin with, we can see that the categories in comparison, which are North America, Europe, Asia, Africa, Australia, and South America. According to the graph, for product X, North America occupies the largest proportion, while South America occupies the smallest proportion. Last but not least, for product Y, North America occupies the largest proportion, while Africa occupies the smallest proportion. In conclusion, product Y and product Z have the same distribution. The pie chart shows information about the distribution of male and female in occupation choices. To begin with, we can see that there are two categories in comparison, menu and non-menu. According to the graph, for female, the largest proportion goes to clerical or related with a figure of 31%, and while the smallest proportion goes to general laborer with a figure of 1%. Last but not least, for males, the largest proportion goes to managerial and professional with a figure of 36%, while the smallest proportion goes to general laborer with a figure of 2%. In conclusion, female and males have different preferences on occupations. The pie chart gives information about the average household energy consumption. To begin with, we can see that there are categories in comparison, which are water heating, cooking, standby, lighting, refrigeration, heating and cooling, and other appliances. According to the graph, the largest proportion goes to other appliances with a figure of 24%, while the smallest proportion goes to both cooking and standby with a figure of 5%. Last but not least, for the rest of the categories, the numbers are ranging from 11% to 23%. In conclusion, households consume almost half of the total energy on heating. The pie chart gives information about the injury location. To begin with, we can see that there are categories in comparison, which are school and childcare, other, roads, work, home, and leisure or sport. According to the graph, the largest proportion goes to home with a figure of 41.4%, while the smallest proportion goes to other with a figure of 2%. Last but not least, for the rest for the categories, the numbers are ranging from 44.8% to 19.5%. In conclusion, this is a very interesting graph, and in order to get more information, we need to further research on that. The pie chart gives information about the electricity generation across Australia. To begin with, we can see that there are categories in comparison, which are coal, natural gas, hydropower, wind, rooftop solar, and bioenergy. According to the graph, the largest figure can be found in coal, which is 73%, but last but not least, the smallest figure can be found in bioenergy, which is only 1%. In conclusion, this is a useful chart about electricity generation across Australia. The pie chart gives information about the pet expenditure in US. To begin with, we can see that there are categories in comparison, which are food and litter, vet care and well-being, services grooming, and boarding and pet purchase. According to the graph, the largest figure can be found in vet care and well-being, which is 47%. Last but not least, the smallest figure can be found in pet purchase, which is only 2%. In conclusion, this is a useful chart about the pet expenditure in US. The pie chart gives information about the age structure in Australia. To begin with, we can see that there are three age groups in comparison, which are age 0 to 14, age 15 to 65, and age above 65. According to the graph, the largest figure can be found in group of age above 65, which is 67. Last but not least, the smallest figure can be found in age between 0 to 14, which is only 13%. In conclusion, this is a useful chart about the age group in Australia.
If you don't want to miss these useful videos, please subscribe the channel and click on notification icon. You'll get notified once a new video is uploaded. Please share with your friends and family if you think it's useful to them. And if you want us to make more videos on specific topic, leave comments. And finally, thanks for watching.